Hello, I am here again. If you're watching the replay on LinkedIn or YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, let me know. Drop me a comment to show me your love and to show me that you're here. I'd love to say hi to you too. Today's live, my second live today, is about how Asian femmes can thrive in a white dominated workplace without overworking. Some things that I hear again and again by my clients is that they really need to make sure they're always working hard, or always at least seen as they're working hard, and have the posture of like being on and showing up and being available. Um, and that is something that is constantly creating like a sense of exhaustion and burnout and tiredness. And I wanted to talk about that today because the number one pain point that people come to me for is overworking. They're like, Angela, I'm showing up, I'm trying to be a quote unquote team player, and I'm trying to go above and beyond. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. And that's a really common thing. People are working after hours because their bosses are replying to emails after hours and on the weekends, and even when their bosses are on vacation. And they're just like, okay, if my boss is doing that, I really need to show up too. And so I just kind of wanted to address that today. I want to talk a little bit about that because it's a huge pain point. People are having trouble unplugging. People are having trouble, like really stepping away and not overworking. Something about overworking that is really important to understand is that overworking comes as a result of something underneath that is driving people to protect themselves. Nobody signs up and says, "Hey, I'm going to wake up today and overwork and try to like put in 5 extra hours because I want to." Very few people, I mean, some people are like they love their job and they can't not do it. But most of us are like we're trying to like have a life too. um Outside of work. And Something that I really wanted to make clear is that overwork is not just something people make a decision to do. It is something that is an impulse that is driven underneath by so many protective factors. So when I think of overwork, I think of, something that um, is just naturally in our nervous systems that's been implanted there to help us survive. So when I think of our nervous systems, um, the way we can look at it is um, sometimes it could get stuck on and activated for a reason. And, it could be for various reasons. Sometimes it's because we learned it from our family, our primary caregivers. We learn where to act to have activation through observing their activation. When I say activation, I mean like when someone is activated, they have increased heart rate, they have vigilance, they have some kind of response that is disproportionate to the actual event. Maybe they recoil, and we learn our nervous system responses through watching our primary caregiver's nervous system response. So for me, growing up, my parents were continually working. They were overworking, and it was like something that they couldn't stop. So my mother and father really never took breaks. They went really hard on their jobs. My dad was an entrepreneur, and so he was his own boss for eventually towards the end of his career. In the beginning, he worked for a big real estate agent, but even then, he was a contract employee. Um, And my mother, like I shared in past lives, worked for a big bank. So when I think of overworking, I think of an overactivation. When your nervous system is stuck and it gets overactivated and it stays there, it's on. So it's kind of like a go 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 response. And it's like when you're driving a car and you have the gas and the brake. When I think of overworking, I think of the gas is this it's pressed on and there's no brakes. So you're just completely engaged always with your work. And part of why that happens is, like I said, some nervous system imprinting through primary caregivers. And, that is absolutely protective. It's kind of like in our primal ancestral times, if we think back to like prehistoric times, if you're, let's say you were a person living nomadically and you were hunting and gathering, and hunting and gathering system, um, how you gathered your food was you went out and hunt for your food. And part of a protective mechanism is you saw your cousin while you were hunting get killed by, let's say, a bear that jumped behind the bush at this location. Um, Even though you know that your cousin was killed in the past by that bear in that bush, and you know that bear is no longer there, every time you walk by that bush, your nervous system will tell you, ugh, like, watch out, watch out, because that anything might jump out. And at that point, it's arbitrary because in the past is the past, and um, there might not be a bear there anymore, but your nervous system is telling you and trying to protect you. And so, something that we talk about in the unburnout strategy is generational cycles. So we pass down protective mechanisms through our nervous systems intergenerationally. So something that happened 8 generations ago that is no longer the case right now, like there are no hunting and gathering societies that right now we may be a part of. Most of us are not. Um, but our ancestors communicate through nervous system responses to protect us from danger, perceived danger. And so the work is like we are overworking, and that sometimes is a nervous system response to a perceived threat that you just need to work in order to succeed, to overwork at a deep personal expense in order to succeed. And that might be a generationally learned thing from our families. And so how do we address that? How do we break that? How do we not overwork? And part of it is seeing that what we're doing is a response and not actually a reflection of reality. So, part of our work is to de escalate our bodies from perceived danger while validating the perceived danger, because we're not trying to gaslight people to say there's no danger. There's plenty there. I mean, plenty of folks feel unsafe going to work, and plenty of folks know that the first person to not make partner, to be laid off, to get cut are usually BIPOC folks that are not white. So it is a real danger, statistically, institutionally. So I'm not trying to gaslight people here. And at the same time, when we overwork, it comes at a deep personal expense. So I just want to also make that clear. When we are overworking, one of the things that comes up is how the message is people need to prove themselves. prove themselves that they are good enough to keep, and prove themselves that they can have a seat at the table. We're conditioned from day one to believe that we're not enough. So we are conditioned from day one that we don't belong, that we are at a deficit and there's something that is deficient and defective about us. And so it's really important that we just like name that, because when in our naming and seeing that it is a phenomenon that not only I believe that, but we as a collective really experience that every single day. So it is really astounding how we don't get affirmed ever. When I walk down the street with my 3 kids, nobody really tells me, like, hey, you're doing a great job as a mom. But my partner, who is a primary caregiver, I'm sure he gets a lot of, oh, you're so sweet for having 3 kids and you're handling them really well. There's a lot that different people get affirmed for. And even go way above and beyond that, if you're working in a white dominated workplace, white folks get affirmed in their everyday lives. They get to see representation of themselves everywhere, and they get to see a reflection of themselves in outward in public spheres as well as private spheres. And there's a lot of affirmation that happens and a lot of centering of comfort that white people receive in order um, to 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 be where they are. And for BIPOC folks, when we are in a state of deficit, when we um when we feel like there's not enough coming in, our default is always, I gotta put myself out there to let people know that I am smart, that I'm capable of being here. I'm capable of earning my keeps here. And that is something that's really dangerous. Um, and it's not about confidence, because confidence comes and goes. It's not about confidence, but it's about that shift when it comes to um, going from, yeah, when somebody looks at me and I catch their glare and they gave me like the side eye, or they interrupted me during a meeting, I can't tell you how many folks, how many clients come to me to debrief those moments, because the message is, when I show up, people are automatically not going to like me. They're going to perceive me as a threat, and they're going to perceive me as someone who doesn't, um, that needs to prove myself. And I need to drop something smart. I need to appear helpful, and I just need to earn my keeps. And it is a real struggle for folks to not take those side eyes and those interruptions personally. And I hope you can hear me say this. Some people are just straight out racist, and there's a lot of racial abuse and microaggressions at work. So I'm not saying that those aren't intentional. Those aren't like as a result of straight up racism. And at the same time, if you were someone else that was not, if you were another Asian person, they would still be racist to you also. So in some ways it is personal, but it isn't at the same time. People are indiscriminately racist, no matter who you are, in what Asian body you are in. So something that I like to, that is something I like to just acknowledge with my clients, is just to say, yes, it feels so incredibly personal that people are interrupting, that people are speaking over you, that people are not taking you into consideration, not making eye contact when they see you. But that is not something that is, we learn how to build capacity to hold the discomfort that comes from that, so that the baseline, so we could go back to your baseline, because all that stuff does and will throw people off. Um, there are clients that come to me um, years later from incidents that could be pretty forgettable usually to other folks, but um, it is these racial microaggressions are real, and they really stay in our bodies. So the work in our program is, how can we metabolize those racial microaggressions, macroaggressions, so that they can move through our bodies and not stay stuck, and how we can continually show up in a way that's from a place of flow. And that does require mind body connection, knowing that we can check in with ourselves, doing body scans, knowing where we are, and just checking in to say, hey, that was really rough. That was a really rough meeting. How can I metabolize all the microaggressions that happened? Take a minute to take care of myself and to really put my needs first, not jump in and keep going. But how can I check in with myself to get what I need, so that when you come back to work, you're not stuck in that place of like um, holding that microaggression that just happened. Um, and sometimes people are just jerks. Like sometimes people are just truly indiscriminately just like doing shit to everybody, no matter what color they are. Um, and we'll talk about how to differentiate that, how to differentiate people being just straight up mean and people really, you know it too in your body. We all have radar for this stuff because we've developed the skill of walking in this world in a way that is really attuned to racism. Um, and so that is part of our work, is to continue to process and metabolize the microaggressions that happen at work, so that y'all can keep showing up in a way that operates out of your flow and out of maximum space for agency and choice to happen. So y'all can choose, do I keep going, which is totally fine? Do I slow down, or do I just stop? And so that's a flexibility thing that your nervous system can have. But y'all know, whenever events throw you off, it could leave you feeling so raw. And everyone has moments where they are left, leave board meetings, they leave team huddles, they leave like one-on-one calls with their supervisors or team feeling so raw. And because of what somebody said or somebody did. And all these incidents over time contribute to workplace burnout. And so I want to continue to talk about that and continue to address that in my group program. So I would love to invite you to join, and the application link is in the unburnoutstrategy.com, and I hope to see you there at to schedule a phone call or to schedule a one-on-one meeting with me is on my website. Hi, Christina. Good to see you. I will talk to you soon, everyone, and looking forward to seeing you at the next live. Bye.